Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia, and welcome back to another episode of our Yuan Shao Let's Talk Lore series as we continue with part 4, titled Uniting the North. Now last time, we ended our episode with a temporary truce between Yuan Shao and Gong Sun-zan, mediated by none other than the emperor himself. However, this truce was fleeting, as both sides merely agreed to it in order to deal with some more pressing internal matters. On Yuan Shao's side, we mentioned last time how the Black Mountain Bandits grew to be a big threat, strong enough to take the city of Ye, and how Yuan Shao spent the remainder of 193 to push back the Black Mountain Bandits deep into the very mountains that they come from. Now, during this short and violent campaign, even Lü Bu came under Yuan Shao's command temporarily, as Lü Bu had been wandering without a master ever since Zhong Zhuo's assassination. However, this pairing would break up shortly, as Lü Bu's annoyance and insubordination almost led to his death, as Yuan Shao was merely a day away from demanding for his head before Lü Bu managed to escape south to join Zhang Yang in Henei. And while Yuan Shao busied himself with the Black Mountain Bandits, his rival in the north, Gong Sun-zan, was dealing with his own internal issues, as the repeated campaigns against Yuan Shao had depleted much of his prized cavalry units. So in order to prepare for the eventual war with Yuan Shao, Gong Sun-zan seeked to expand his army. However, such a expansion required money, and since Gong Sun-zan was just a general and not a governor or a prefect of any province at this point, he didn't have the means to move state funds to expand his army. So at first he tried to ask his longtime boss and ally Liu Yu, who was the prefect of the You province, for the funds. But as a member of the royal family and a caring official, Liu Yu saw Gong Sun-zan's war with Yuan Shao as nothing but a personal feud, and saw that it brought nothing but death and pain for the people in the north. So he refused Gong Sun-zan's demands and chided him for trying to break the imperial truce. Spurned by Liu Yu, Gong Sun-zan turned to other means as he ordered his troops to raid the local populace as a means to gain the wealth necessary to expand his army. At first, when news of such looting reached Liu Yu, he ordered Gong Sun-zan to stand down, but upon hearing this, Gong Sun-zan merely increased his effort in terms of looting to spite Liu Yu. Seeing that words was not going to do it, Liu Yu mustered up an army of 100,000 conscript as he marched against Gong Sun-zan. However, by the time Liu Yu arrived at the city Gong Sun-zan was garrisoned in, Gong Sun-zan was not present, as he and his cavalry units were outside in the countryside looting. Yet even without Gong Sun-zan there, Liu Yu was unable to take the city, as he forbid his troops from setting the city on fire and from injuring any civilians. So for the next 3 days, Liu Yu's inexperienced force tried to politely siege the city, only for Gong Sun-zan to return with his cavalry as he charged headfirst into Liu Yu's encampment, setting most of his camp on fire, which forced Liu Yu's forces to rout north as they escaped to Juyong Gate Pass, right outside of modern-day Beijing, in order to regroup. Seeing that Liu Yu had betrayed him, Gong Sun-zan seized this opportunity and rallied his force to attack this gate pass. And after 3 days of intense fighting, the Juyong Pass fell, as Liu Yu, along with his entire family, was captured alive by Gong Sun-zan. Victorious, Gong Sun-zan marched his force to the capital city of Ji, with Liu Yu as his prisoner, as he now prepared to take over the entire You province. And it happens that at the time when Gong Sun-zan would arrive in Ji, there was an imperial envoy awaiting him, as the emperor had sent a delegation here to promote Liu Yu as the figurehead for all 6 northern provinces, while also promoting Gong Sun-zan to become the general of the central army for his obedience to the imperial truce. And seeing this, Gong Sun-zan quickly saw an opportunity as he threatened the imperial delegation as he told them how Liu Yu had actually been plotting with Yuan Shao to crown himself as an emperor. And after he found out, he righteously and quickly captured Liu Yu to stop this treasonous act. Then Gong Sun-zan ordered the execution of Liu Yu's entire family as he told the envoy that he would be taking over for Liu Yu's promotion personally, and he will continue the task of putting down this uprising by going to war against Yuan Shao for the emperor. Then he presented the head of Liu Yu and his family to the envoy so they may bring them back to the emperor and inform the emperor of Liu Yu's wrongdoing. And without any means to retaliate or argue, the delegation quietly accepted Gongsun-zan's terms as they left the seals for the position and took Liu Yu's family's heads and returned to the capital to report back all that has transpired. Now, certainly on paper, this series of moves by Gongsun-zan seemed ingenious, but in reality, no one is a fool, and the imperial court knew very well what Gongsun-zan had done. But the court was now controlled by Li Jue and Guo Si, and not much can be done about these regional warlords. So temporarily, Gongsun-zan gained control of the Yue province and finally gained the funds he needed to expand his army. Yet he will lose so much more with this move simply because Liu Yu was extremely popular in the north. And to show how popular Liu Yu was, first off, the imperial delegation was attacked before they even left the Yue province, as former officers of Liu Yu risked treason to reclaim their family's severed heads so they may be grouped back with the body for proper burial. Then, numerous regional lieutenants within the Yue province, especially nomadic officials who worked with the Han army, started to organize uprisings against Gongsun-zan, as Liu Yu's harmonious policies were extremely popular among the Xianbei and Wuhuan tribes, especially if you compare them to the more hardline policies of Gongsun-zan. So officers such as Xian Yu Fu, Qi Zhou, and Xian Yu Yin started to openly rebel against Gongsun-zan. Meanwhile, the Wuhuan tribal chiefs also rallied a combined Han and Wuhan force of over 10,000 to attack Gongsun-zan's forces in the Yan region, where they managed to take the princedom of Yan and even killing the local administrator. Then finally in 195, one of Liu Yu's last surviving sons, Liu He, managed to link up with Yuan Shao as he joined forces with General Qu Yi to form a massive army of 100,000 strong, and they attacked Gongsun-zan directly at Baoqiu. And already battered from the numerous raids and rebellions throughout the Yue province, Gongsun-zan was soundly defeated as his forces suffered over 20,000 casualties in this battle alone. And to make matters worse, rallying to Liu He's banner, the Wuhan tribe also sent over 7,000 of their cavalry to help raid the rest of the Yue province in order to weaken Gongsun-zan's holds on commanderies such as Dai, Guangyang, Shanggu, and Youbeiping. And with these losses, Gongsun-zan was forced to retreat all the way back to his own capital of Yijing, where he dug in and constructed massive fortresses in an effort to halt the attacks. And as Gongsun-zan dug in, Qu Yi and Liu He's armies tried to besiege Gongsun-zan in Yijing. But after a month-long siege, Qu Yi's forces ran out of food and was forced to end the siege prematurely without any result. And seizing this opportunity, Gongsun-zan pursued the retreating force and managed to inflict significant casualties while also forcing Qu Yi to abandon much of their siege equipment and supply carts on the road in order to make a hastened retreat. And seeing how successful his turtling strategy has worked, Gongsun-zan decided to double down on this effort as he ordered more constructions of fortresses, and he became more and more paranoid due to the pathetic showings of his regional officers that kept losing land on the frontier, and the string of uprising didn't instill any confidence in his men. So during 195 to 197, Gongsun-zan amassed over 3 million dan of food storage as he constructed a string of fortresses and dug a massive ditch network to prevent sieges. And he was hoping to just basically hold out in Yijing and outlast Yuan Shao. Now, this effort plus his paranoia would have him construct a central fortress for himself where he ordered that no male over the age of 7 was allowed to enter, as he enjoyed life inside with his wife and concubines. And in order to relay his orders to the other fortresses that were spaced out about 100 leagues apart, he trained middle-aged women with booming voices to act as relay speakers to yell orders from one fortress to another. So This design had obviously so many flaws, with the main issue being that now Gongsun Zan no longer sees even his closest advisors and officers, and people started to lose morale as trust between the leader and his officers fractured. And Yuan Shao's army now only had to isolate him or attack outer fortresses to force reaction from Gongsun Zan. And Gongsun Zan's reaction to these attacks was to ignore his officers. He argued that if he was going to help them every time they get attacked, they wouldn't try their best to defend. And this completely demoralized Gongsun Zan's forces, as I believe Gongsun Zan pretty much bordered on madness at this point in terms of his paranoia. But meanwhile, on Yuan Shao's side, Qu Yi's retreat and defeat at the hands of Gongsun Zan, who seemed to be on the rope, angered Yuan Shao, as he also started to have some paranoia and doubt about Qu Yi, who Yuan Shao had relied on heavily in this war against Gongsun Zan. Now, in my opinion, Qu Yi was probably Yuan Shao's most capable general, but his abilities also meant he was very difficult to control. And if you recall, back before Qu Yi joined Yuan Shao, he was an officer serving under Han Fu, and when he thought Han Fu was weak, he rebelled against Han Fu in an attempt to personally take over the Ji province. And this implied two things. First and foremost, Qu Yi was ambitious, and more importantly, Qu Yi's troops were loyal to him and willing to rebel for him instead of being loyal to the Lord. So even though Qu Yi eventually ended up working for Yuan Shao found it hard to ever fully trust Qu Yi. So now with Gongsun Zan on the ropes and the North almost won, Yuan Shao seized on Qu Yi's defeat as an opportunity to marginalize him within the army. However, as we mentioned before, Qu Yi's men were very loyal to him, so when they tried to demote him, it kind of backfired as his men refused to work under their new commander. So Yuan Shao turned to violence as he would betray Qu Yi and execute him before Qu Yi had any opportunity to betray him. So using insubordination as an excuse, Yuan Shao would execute Qu Yi in late 195 and absorb his army. And those men who resisted were all put down by force. And this is the reason why most casual fans of Three Kingdoms today might not even know Qu Yi's name, because he didn't get to shine in later campaigns against more famous characters of the book, such as Cao Cao in the Battle of Guandu. Now, aside from these developments in the year 195, the biggest event of the year has to be the emperor's escape from Chang'an, as in late October, when Li Jue and Guo Si were busy fighting, Yang Feng would help the child emperor escape Chang'an as they attempted to return to the former capital of Luoyang. Along the way, they sent messengers to all the regional warlords in the area to order them to come protect the emperor. One such messenger would make his way to Yuan Shao's court. And we will see in the next episode how Yuan Shao would miss this valuable chance to become the regent, to wield the emperor, and he's going to see this opportunity slip to his childhood friend and longtime ally Cao Cao, who will seize this opportunity instead. Now, the next episode will be the last one in this series, as we will end the series with the setup right before the Battle of Guandu, as one of the biggest developments of Cao Cao seizing the emperor is setting up this unavoidable war between Yuan Shao and Cao Cao. But worry not, our Battle of Guandu lore series will continue right after the series ends, so hopefully you all enjoyed this episode, and I will see you all for the finale of this series next week. Bye!